Hello and welcome to In the Light, Growing Your Soul with me, Anna Isabel. And I am delighted because my guest today is Debbie Selwood, who, well, it appears that we met some time ago on the same bill for the Astrological Lodge of London on a healing day. And now she is here with me today because she's written this wonderful book called You Are a Frequency. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you, Anna. I'm really pleased to be here to talk to you.
Well, your book, I think, actually, it's the first one I've come across that describes the idea of frequency as in us being a frequency in such a clear way. So I thought, what a perfect book to talk about on this channel. And so I guess maybe we could begin with the title, You Are a Frequency. What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for saying it's a clear book to understand, because there are some concepts in it that, well, basically the whole concept is different for a lot of people to understand. So if it's clear, then that's really wonderful. I think it's just energy. I've always, like yourself, I worked with as an astrologer, and of course, my understanding is that the planets are influence us through their energies. It's a lot more complex understanding probably than that, I'm just saying. But I work as a flower essence therapist as well, and I'm working with plant energies. And both these roles, I'm working with people's emotions and their thoughts, their feelings. So it has been very sort of easy in the years past to understand how they are energies, our thoughts, our emotions, our energies, and how instrumental they are in our well-being. So I really wanted to write this book. So it was an easy title, really, because I just wanted it to convey immediately that what I was trying to get at. And I just really wanted to empower people, I think, and to understand another aspect of themselves. I think it's really important in that currently in the world that we're living in, it's very challenging. And I think we're also being bombarded by lots of different energies. And the more we understand ourselves as an energy, hopefully, the more easier it is to manage our lives and understand what's going on. And health is crucial. Obviously, our well-being is absolutely crucial. It's being challenged a bit in these days we're at the moment, these challenging times.
Yes, when we consider the level of radiation that we're being exposed to, which is unnatural for anything alive, it is certainly a concern, if we can put that. So one of the things that I really like is the way in which you have talked about different layers of the body, or of the energy body, and I really like that. So what is the difference then between what you're describing, and we'll talk about that in a minute, what you're describing as the energy body and all the different layers, and an aura?
I think an aura is just a general term, basically, for everything that's going on around us, but specifically the bodies. The aura also explains really the vibration that the bodies give off. It's just more of a general term for all of these different things.
So if we think about the energy field around us, the energy body, tell us about the different parts, because you talk about the etheric body and the emotional body, the mental body. So what are these different components?
Right. Well, for people who are not really familiar with this, the book really does detail the fact that we are much more than just a physical body, that we have these subtle energy aspect to our total being, as we want to call it, because we're not just physical, there's much more. So the etheric body is the one that's closest to the physical body, and it's really is like a mirror image of our physical body. So everything that happens to the etheric body will translate to the physical. So to go on a little bit, the other bodies, say emotional, mental body, I'll go back to them in a minute. But what is happening in them will also translate into the etheric body. And then, as I say, if there's imbalances, and I'll go a bit more into that in a minute as well, then this will affect on the physical body. When I say imbalances, we have an emotional body, which is really the seat of where our emotions are. And it's like, years and years ago, when I first started to understand this, I thought I can really get to grips with this, because there's such things in our life where we feel almost out of our body with the emotion of it. Yeah. So there is a separate body where this is where our emotions take place, and the mental body is where our thought processes take place. So if everything's good and hunky-dory, and don't have, which is not realistic in life, is it? If our thoughts are really positive and they are constructive, then everything should be flowing well. If our emotions are happy and joyful, and we're not holding traumas and hurts and regret and revenge and anger, or all of those sort of things, then everything should be good. But the trouble is that mostly we're not. It's very difficult if we've been hurt, for an example. We just tend to hold on to that. And over a period of time, this is not a good idea, because whether it's the emotions or the thoughts, they start to create sort of imbalanced energies. As I say, eventually they translate into the physical if they're not resolved. One of the important things with the etheric body is that we have life force energy, and some people may call this prana, so flowing through us, and that's really important for our life force, basically. But if we have these imbalances in our subtle anatomy, then it cannot get through. It cannot, flow perfectly, which is the desirable state. So the book outlines a lot about how important it is to let go of emotions and feelings, or negative thoughts, or thoughts that are not wholesome, and concentrate on creating positive feelings, regardless of, sometimes things have happened to us and we keep going over in our minds, and it's understandable, but it's not the best thing to do. So we have to sort of like take a different sort of view of it, or whatever, and elevate it to a higher plane, maybe just see it in a different way, so that we can release these things that are not necessarily beneficial for us, because it's affecting our subtle anatomy. This is where it's all happening. It will eventually affect us, influence us, our physical well-being.
Is the structure of it fluid, as in, is what's closest to our bodies the mental body? Is it the etheric body? Is it the emotional body? What is it that's closest to us?
It's the etheric, yeah. It's the etheric one. But I mean, I think these bodies interpenetrate, and they interpenetrate our physical body, but also interpenetrate each other. So it's, it is fluid. It's a good way of saying it.
Okay, so we have this body that exists. So this is energy outside of our bodies.
Yes, well, in penetrating with us as well.
Yes, so it's part of us, but it's kind of an energy field that is around us. And some of it is about the mind energy, some of it is about the emotional energy. Etheric?
Well, it's basically that will be affected by the emotions and the mental. As I say, it's just a mirror image of our physical body. So without that etheric body, we can't really exist, because it holds us together, sort of thing. It has a model of holding of everything together. So it's really, and it's really important with the, say, the life force energy. It's going to affect the etheric first. It's going to, everything needs to flow, really, that energy flow through us. The reason why people could probably find, oh yes, this sounds a bit weird, is that we, of course, we can't see them. We can't see this, unless some people can. Some people who are psychic and they can see colors, they can see energy around a person. But these bodies are much higher vibration than the physical body. So the physical body is vibrating to such a dense level that we express as something physical. But because it's almost like the analogy, say, of a fan on a hot day. It's when you can see the spokes and the fan, but when you turn it on and it's going so fast that you can see through it. You can't really see them individually. If that helps give a bit of an understanding to the whole body thing.
So how does this relate to the soul?
Well, I think that the soul has the final say, really. It's really important in cultivating the relationship with the soul, using our intuition and trying to get the messages from our higher self or the soul, or maybe they're slightly different, maybe they're the same, but there is a higher authority, let's put it that way. Because the soul always knows what's best for us. So if we are listening and receiving the messages that it's probably trying to tell us, then everything will flow in a better way. The thing is that we're not usually listening to the messages. So the soul can keep sort of knocking on the door and saying, hey, what about this? This isn't the way you should be doing things or behaving, or you shouldn't be treating your body like this, or you should whatever, or you should be on a different course of action. Because sometimes people, they're not living who they should be. And so it might be sort of knocking on the door and giving you a bit of discomfort, whether that's physical or emotional. Then eventually, if you're not really listening, then could be that you may find you have some physical things to deal with, because the physical body is the final place it's going to show, going to manifest eventually. Or even suppressed emotions or things like that, it will show physically. But the soul, yeah, it's the teacher, really, isn't it? And it's showing us what we should, for my understanding. Nobody really has. There's not a lot of written about the soul, but so it's each one of us can have our own perspective of really what it is. That's just mine.
Your view. Okay. So sometimes people use the words soul and spirit interchangeably, and there is a fine distinction to be made. Tell us about that.
Whoa, I don't really particularly write about this in the book, but my understanding would be there would be a higher authority to the soul. Maybe it would be called the monad, and that's whether you call it spirit or whatever. But I think that is its higher authority. It's not a subject that's a lot is known about, and even myself, I don't know a huge amount about the monad. It's something more to discover, I think.
Well, it's always good to have something to discover, which is perfect.
Stretch yourself all the time, right?
Indeed. So if we think about this energy field that's around us with these different components, how does that relate to the chakras in the body?
Well, they're all connected, basically. I think that's different bodies have, like the emotional body would probably be, and I'm not an expert on chakras. I know people who are a lot more expert on this sort of thing who probably would tell you a bit more. But basically they would say it would be related to the solar plexus or something, because this is really a gut, isn't it? Instinct. When the solar plexus, something happens to you and you think, oh, I'm hurt, and you can feel it. So this is the emotional body. The mental body, I'm not, it's not something I go into again in the book. It's just the mental body would probably be more aligned with, say, the throat chakra. Maybe we're expressing ourselves. That's the sort of general idea anyway.
Yeah. And I guess the reason the question popped up in my head is because you were talking about the life force. Talking about it being prana, sometimes it's known as ki or chi.
Yeah.
And the flow. And this is what we have got used to, the idea of the chakras and the whole energy system that is within our bodies also. That energy needing to flow through. So I was wondering what your experience of working with that was. That I think is where the question popped up.
It's all a sort of a network, isn't it? It's all connected. All of when I say the subtle anatomy, really that includes the chakras as well. It's all connected, and all amazing thing is that it's on a subtle level. It's all talking to each other. So just and it's going on, and we don't have a clue.
I think it's interesting because as wearing my hypnotherapy hat, I do a lot of work with people, helping them to see the link between the mind and the body. And we talk about the importance of using positive language rather than language that is negative about the body. Because it's a kind of programming that we are giving to ourselves, an expectation that we're creating that is negative, knowing that somehow that could crop up in the body. But I think this is another level again, because that's the mind-body connection. We know it exists. And there's been so much work that's shown also that various certain emotional roots. So the work of Louise Hay, for instance, very well known for that. And now you're talking about an imbalance existing within our energy field that causes illness. So I guess what I'm seeing here is a very interconnected system whereby we think and we become, and we feel and we become. So it really is showing that the body reflects our emotional and mental state of being. So what can we do to help change this so that we are actually in the best position to enjoy good health?
Yes, I think what you say is very good, and helping your clients is absolutely the way to see things positively. I mean, we are, as I see it, we are basically multi-dimensional beings, because we're working on different levels. You know, the emotional body, as I say, is would be on, in the book, I talk about the fact the emotional body would be on a different plane, the mental body would be on a different, we're just in different dimensions. So really, I mean, just to go off a little bit, I mean, healthcare doesn't really enter into this at all. It just sees us as a physical body. But I think, to answer your question, what can we do to make sure that we live, good, healthy lives, is really to be aware. I think, first of all, be aware that we are not just physical. We are so much more than that. And when I talked about the letting go of things that don't serve us anymore, it's very hard because, things have happened to us and we can't always shake it off, can we? It's just, it goes around and around in the head, and, it's why me, and, sort of those sort of things. So it's hard, but we have to work on that. It's something we have to work on. And as I say, we can sort of like think about a different way or reframe it in a different way so that we see it. Maybe I think also it's helpful to have sort of a philosophical view as well on life and things that happen to us. We're all evolving and we have to go through certain experiences. So if we're philosophical about it, then that helps to put a different perspective on things and helps to move us along, I think. Also, because we are energy beings, it's really important to protect our space, or to protect ourselves, because particularly if we're sensitive, then people's energies can affect us in a way that we are totally unaware. If we're more aware that we're an energy being, and we encounter somebody who maybe they consciously or unconsciously, they have an effect on us, but it's not a desirable effect. So if we are aware, then we can find ways of protecting ourselves, and also find ways of thinking, I'm not really going to be with that person. I don't want to be with that person. You see, I'll avoid that person. And that's okay, because you're looking after yourself. If that person's having not a very good effect on you, then you really don't need to be in their company anymore. I think it's really about self-responsibility, and it's probably something that's really missing in today's health field. Not missing, because a lot of people now are becoming with sort of alternative practices and psychology, such as yourself, becoming aware of looking at themselves in a different way. But generally, there's a lot of people who would give up their selves to the medical establishment, and not without really thinking, hey, let's have a look at what's going on in my life. Is there something that I should be looking at first of all? It's just maybe the tendency is to fix me. Maybe I'm depressed or something. Oh, fix me, rather than step back and think, let's just have a think about things. What has led to this position, maybe?
Yes, and that's not to say that a medical intervention is not going to be helpful.
Absolutely not. Yes.
That for the healing to be complete,
yes,
we need to have a multi-dimensional or a multifaceted approach to healing.
Yes. Mm.
Because even within the confines of the medical model, we know that emotion can affect the body because stress can affect the body.
Mm.
So it needs to be, I think, a multifaceted approach to healing.
Mm.
But coming back a little bit, you talked about different dimensions.
Mm.
Did you mean that literally, that we are in more than one dimension simultaneously?
I think so. I mean, our body is on the physical plane, isn't it? But I think when I talk about the emotional body before, and I said sometimes things in our life are dramatic and upsetting, and it almost feels like we're in a different body. Well, we most likely are. We're most likely in a different body on a different plane, not just when it's traumatic, but generally, I would say our thinking is probably on a different plane as well. We are, as I say, I believe that we are multi-dimensional beings, and we need something that looks at us in a different way, rather than just, you are physical, everything is going on in that physical body. This is the stop. We stop there. We just fix the body, because the health systems really will just say, we're looking at the the cause. They're not looking at the cause, they're looking at the end result just to try and fix that. But really we need to look more at the cause. What has happened on maybe any of those sort of dimensional levels of those bodies that we're in? What has happened to cause the problem?
So if an individual experiences a shock, what is the impact on this, on these subtle energies that are a part of us? And then how does that affect the physical body?
What I think happens is, what I understand happens is that the bodies are, after shock, the bodies can be put out of alignment, and they can sort of like not have the healthy distance that they have between each other. I know they're individual, but they're also connected, so they do interpenetrate. But I think shock means that they're, you know, sort of like been pushed out of their places, and then will not be able to function so well. And that, I feel, is one of the things that needs to be sorted out prior to looking at anything else. If there has been it's something, as a flower practitioner, I would ask my clients, whatever, you know, has been going on with them, what they've come to see me for, is, have you had shocks? Even the shock of grief, it can be something that's put things out of alignment, and that's probably something to look at first.
Good, because I think, you know, we get very used to thinking about, you know, traumas, big traumas, little traumas, but an emotional shock that happens because, and it could be very subtle. It could be just that you were expecting something from a friend or a certain reaction from a friend, and the opposite has happened.
Yes.
And you find that quite disturbing, quite shocking. It can have a profound, it's, you know, we talk about something that it's like we lose our footing. It feels like that.
Yes, indeed.
So so these things also are important. So what is your approach to healing? You're using flower essences. How does that work?
Well, as I said earlier, flower essences are energies, the energies of plants, flowers, crystals, nature, just trees, or even the energies of, say, a sacred place. And these flower essences, once they're made, and I'll go into a little bit about. Shall I go? Do you want me to go into a little bit about? Okay. Well, take a flower. Say traditionally, a flower essence would be made by taking a flower and putting it in a bowl of spring water and leaving it outside. I was going to say in the sunlight, but looking at the English weather today, we don't have an awful lot of sunlight, a lot. And after a couple of hours, then the energies from that flower would have transferred into the water, because water has a memory. And then the flower essence is bottled up with a preservative, say vodka, brandy, and it is sold in little bottles. And what essences do is they help to bring you back into alignment. It's almost like every little flower has a certain energy that resonates with the imbalance within you, or one. And it helps to bring that person back into a sort of an alignment. So that's the way I use it. I use them for, flower essences are not used for physical illnesses. They are used to restore the emotional side or the mental side first, which has possibly led to the illness in the first place. Does that explain things, or have I not gone into?
No, it's perfect. Thank you. I think that it was just an important addition to what we were discussing, because we've outlined where things can go wrong. We've outlined the importance of that alignment, and here is a possible healing that you're offering, which I think is really important. So I just want to come back to maintaining health. And we hear a lot about the need to raise our vibration and, you know, having operating at a higher frequency. What does that mean, and how do we do that?
Well, when we talk about the subtle bodies, and we each emit, according to our consciousness, then, of the level of vibration, we are emitting an energy field, and that's our vibration. That can be tweaked by keeping our vibration up, or not, by not thinking good or getting down. That will bring our vibration down. So yeah, there is a lot at the moment about bringing our vibration up, because I think it's beginning to filter through the fact that we are energy. Everything is energy. And it's not we, as astrologers, we also know that with the Pluto in Aquarius, and we're going into not yet, but going into the Aquarian age. That's Aquarius is all about energy. So it's not by mistake. This has been bombarded with us now, and about energies, and that we are energies. So the more we can live in some sort of peace or harmony, despite what we might see going on around us, which is, these days, it's difficult, but we have to look after ourselves first. So don't be sort of drawn out into things that are going out into the world. Sometimes observe with compassion, because it's very distressing. But we have to, maintain our self-responsibility, retain our own core by keeping, ourselves in good shape. That's the one thing we can do for ourselves. So raising our vibration is living with some sort of happiness and joy, and trying to put those things in perspective, those things that are going on. It's also about, you might hear about going or becoming more into a 5D perspective. And this is more about living in a different perspective than we are living now. We're living with the fact that we're all connected, and there is no separation. There shouldn't be any judgment. And eventually these things will come when we're all on the same page. We will all be elevated. That's probably a good word, elevated in our thinking process. So being in nature is good for raising our vibration. And as I mentioned earlier, making sure that our boundaries are intact, and being careful about who infiltrates them, because that can bring our vibration down. Being grateful, that's a really good one. Just feeling that, that really intense feeling of gratitude, I think, helps to raise the vibration as well.
And I would add doing things that we love.
Yes.
I think very important, and very often we forget, because we are doing all the shoulds, and we are tired. And the very thing that is going to give us more energy is to do things that we love, whether that's hugging your child,
yes,
or playing tug with your dog,
yes,
whatever that makes you feel that moment of joy.
yes,
it just refreshes and re-energizes, and helps that fatigue go away. So if it means lying in a bath,
listening to music, whatever
it is, but just raising that vibration, these are the normal simple things of life but which can make a huge difference to rebalancing, and helping us to develop resilience to the darkness that sometimes feels as though it's just going to
overwhelm.
Overwhelm. Yes.
Yes, everything you say, that's really great. And just keeping, as much as we can, our emotions harmonious, in a harmonious state. Things happen, people say things. So the best way is, maybe if somebody says something you're not happy with, just let it go through. Okay, rather than get emotional or angry.
Yes, it's a fine line between denial and burying our heads in the sand, and being able to do that. But really what we're talking about is acknowledging the discomfort, the pain, the anger, and then saying, okay, yep, I know what I need to do. I'm just going to move on, rather than dwelling on it. It's allowing that feeling to come through, acknowledging it, and then saying, okay, I'm going to move. And because it's when we get stuck that the problem begins, and we know that feeling of being stuck, that's stuck in that dark emotion.
Yes.
This is not about burying them, it's about acknowledging them, allowing it to flow through. And if it comes back, that's okay too. Process again, because it will come back.
We're all human, aren't we? We're all human.
Exactly.
So we're just going to, but we have to, if you, as you say, your own way of dealing with it, just flow with it, acknowledge, okay, out of it.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. This has been a most, I think, perfect structure that you've given people to think about the different energy bodies and how to see them and work with them. So, Debbie, thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome, Anna. It's been really delightful to talk to you.
And the book, just to remind you all, that we have been discussing is called You Are a Frequency. Debbie, how do people find you if they want to learn more about what you do or benefit from your work with flower essences?
I have a website, which is basically debbieselwood.com with 2 L's.
Wonderful.
I'm on Facebook as well. So.
Okay, well, I'll be putting a link to that in the description box so that people can find you easily. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anna. Lovely to talk to you.
And thank you all for watching. A reminder also that the link to the book will be in the description box too.
Right. Lovely. Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. And next time, we're going to be hearing about what animals think of the world in which we live. Until then, goodbye.